Accucare Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine in Brick, New Jersey offers a state-of-the-art facility with all the best and current treatments. With athletic trainers, massage therapists, and doctors of physical therapy, Accucare has everything you need to stay healthy and perform at the highest level. Cupping, stretching, laser therapy, compression boots, and a full-body cryo chamber are just some of what you can expect at Accucare. Check out their website and social media links in my bio. No prescription is needed to see them. So call them today and start feeling and performing at your best. Again, thank you to Accucare for sponsoring the Shore Football Report. Just got two things to say right now. First, I want to thank Accucare. They are awesome, our great sponsor. Get there. If you haven't been there yet, make an appointment, get to Accucare, especially towards the end of the season when your body needs to get that extra push and be healthy on the football field. Rehabilitation, recovery, they are the best. Make an appointment, call them and tell them you're coming. All right. The Shore Football Report is definitely endorsing going to Accucare. They're the best out there right now. And they have athletes going there around the clock, all sports, and that's that. And also, when you're transitioning to another sport, your body is gonna be needing this Accucare treatment because you're using different body parts. So just make sure that you utilize Accucare, located in Brick. They are the best. I love being associated with them. They are part of the team, the Shore Football Report team. All right. The other thing I want to say is this: subscribe to the Shore Football Report YouTube channel. Every one of you, when you watch it, click subscribe. It's free. It's free. Turn the notifications off if you don't want to hear it. But subscribe. By you subscribing, says thank you. I need 1,000. I want 1,000 subscribers. Please, 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 please subscribe. Scott Stump says I don't say it enough on our show. That's why we don't got 1,000 subscribers. But subscribe. All joking aside, it's the cool thing to do. All right. Join the Shore Football Report team. We got so many things that are going to be going on our YouTube channel, not just our talk shows. We're going to have extensive all-star team coverage that we're going to do. Also, yes, you've been asking, the Stumpy Awards, they're coming back. The Stumpy Awards are coming back from 8 years ago, and I know you guys are going to love it. So we're going to have all my all-star teams, all county, all shore, all division, my rankings of players, because I changed things up and seeing how guys are playing, adding the freshmen, the 2026s are going to be included in that rankings too. It's a lot of stuff, all going to be on our YouTube, the Shore Football Report YouTube. Subscribe. You won't want to miss it. In the off season, I'll be doing things around the clock for recruiting, talking with college coaches and coaches from all over the country will be on my talk shows throughout the off season. There's no off in my season. All right. Subscribe to the Shore Football Report. And also, more importantly, make an appointment to Accucare.
Can you believe it, Rob? 2022 Shore Conference football is in the books. But we ended on a high note. The last game in all of New Jersey this year was Toms River North on Sunday, achieving immortality. 28-7 win over Passaic Tech. Rumson earlier that day with a heartbreaker, 4-point loss to the undefeated Caldwell team that ran their winning streak to 28 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
Rumson was at the 10-yard line right there at the end, chance to win it. Came up a little short. Still was an incredible season. But we'll start with the obviously the high note. I mean, Toms River North, first shore conference team to ever go 14-0. First team in New Jersey to ever go 14-0.
Yeah.
With the group added this year.
Yep.
You have the most points ever scored in a season by a New Jersey team, well over 600 for Toms River North. Just, unbelievable stats for Michael Ford. And watching that game, if Michael Ford doesn't cramp up during that game and have to be pulled out for long stretches, they win that game like 42-7. Because when he's in the game, they were moving the ball at will against a very good Passaic Tech defense. But I mean, what an ending for Toms River North, and what an all-time season for the Mariners.
I mean, he had high expectations. He had a lot of probably internal, pressure from inside him he knew he had a good team, Coach Oz. And it was nice to see him smiling after the game, knowing, it was either win to Group 5 or failure. I mean,
it reminded me of years ago when Steve Antonucci had no Sean Moreno and Nick Macaluso. He said, I stay up at night thinking I can't screw this up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like I've been handed this amazing team, and people, if we're not perfect, people are going to look at me and say, how did you have all those players and that talent and not get it done? So, yeah, I'm happy for Coach Ozerwitz that he was able to
I'm pumped
exhale after that one and stamp their name among the greatest short conference teams of all time.
It was a great win for not only Toms River, but the short conference. A Group 5
I thought it was also nice, too, that, all year we've talked about Michael Ford and Pruitt and Council and, Moore and all their offensive weapons. The defense, to me, really came to play in that game against
Kazanowski. Ty, had a great game. Jeremiah Pruitt is a force. You're going to see a lot of these kids' names on all-star teams throughout the state, all group. Of course, our all-star teams will have North plastered all over it, and rightfully so. Just great. Congratulations to the whole program, the school. Love reading the tweets by the principal. The whole town is excited. It's a lot of pride there in Toms River, and, they did something that nobody else did. They scored the most points, like you said, in the state of New Jersey. Think of that. The most points in New Jersey was scored with that. And generated by a kid who's coming back next year, Michael Ford.
I know, it's scary when they have their senior class isn't big, but it's very good. A lot of their key players, but Michael Ford coming back, Council, Pruitt, like an all-star team worth of guys. They could very easily run this streak to 28 games. No pressure or anything. We don't want to put that on. You look at the way that this team is constructed, and the core of that offense, granted, they have some really good offensive linemen and guys like that they're going to have to replace from graduation. But to me, what they did was just first of all, it was just so awesome. For years, we wanted these group championships, and to get a short conference team to take one of them home was really special in that first year, because for years we've tried to tell people we played great football in the short conference, and now we were able to prove it. I mean, North finished in pretty much all the rankings. They're number 2 in the state, the number 1 public school behind only Bergen Catholic, sort of your perennial power that blew out Don Bosco, and that perfectly understandable in that respect. And when you put this in perspective, obviously there's the recency bias when you're looking at the greatest teams of all time. This team just went 14-0, but I think not only what they accomplished, but the talent they have on this team. Like, we could look back in 5 years and say there was 12 college players on that team, and like 5 of them were FBS players, and 2 or 3 of them were Power 5 FBS players. So I think between the combination of the star power and what they did, you're talking about like a pantheon team.
The only thing I'm going to say, though, Scott, is when people start saying things like this is the best team or is that the best team, you gotta have respect for the past. There's been some pretty good football teams in the short conference. We could sit here and talk another hour about every school's top teams and all that too, but this team was special. There was.
Well, and I think it's also, football to a large degree is a different game in a lot of respects. from these teams that, the brick teams of the 1970s and early 80s, or, the Mattawan teams of the late 70s, or even the Jackson teams from 2000, 2001. Although I will say Toms River North was a throwback team. They were a power running downhill team.
Yeah, correct.
That plays in almost any era of football. Now, granted, the explosiveness they had and their ability to make big plays in the passing game a little bit different. But yeah, they're an old school team in that regard, that it's not like they came out and threw the ball 55 times a game like a more modern, spread type team. So I think it's a great argument, as far as my experience. I mean, you go back a little further than me, but like, as far as my teams that I experienced, the Middletown South teams of the late 80s and early 90s that were ranked nationally with the Peter brothers and Stephen Pitts, and then the No-Shawn Middletown South teams and the Jackson Memorial, and then that 2006 Manasquan team, those are the ones that have always kind of like jumped out to me as some of the alts. And the Lacey team in 2010 that basically obliterated everyone on their schedule by 3 or 4 touchdowns. But this team will put themselves right up there with them, or maybe ahead of them.
I went to Tom's River, and already on the GPS, it has Coach Dave Osowitz Road on there. They built the road for him. It's right off of Micah Ford Avenue. It's right there. But those two guys are gonna. I mean, what a great! I really am so happy. Now people are messaging me how good they're gonna be next year. Let's enjoy this year first. We'll talk about next year in a couple, but let's enjoy it. Very special, talented underclassmen, senior leadership. That's senior leadership. You got Ty Kazanowski, you got Bayako, you got Bolin, Josh K, who I think was the glue to that team. I mean, those are key kids that they're going to miss next year. But with
and
that,
not only that, how talented is a team where you can lose your superstar quarterback for large stretches of a state final against a good team and just line up Pruitt in the backfield and other guys and run Wildcat and still maybe throw the ball and not really miss too much. I mean, that's an incredible team.
Coach Osowitz, go ahead, take another drink. We got Pruitt in there. TJ Valeri. I mean, that sophomore TJ Valeri could probably start 90% of the teams in Ocean County. I mean, they have some talent. Their backups are that. And wait till you see the all-star teams. They got a lot of their personnel groups in their all-star teams. He had some talent, but when you have talent like that, you also got to manage the egos, and that's their personalities. So you have a bunch of different guys and strong-minded guys, and it just was great. It was definitely the chemistry was perfect with the coaches and the players.
Yeah, I think I'm most proud of them is for. They never got really overconfident. A team like that can fall in love with their press clippings and their video highlights and everything all over the internet. We're unstoppable. We're amazing. And, kind of roll the balls out and give not 100% effort. But every game they were out there to prove that they were the best team by far on the field. They never really had much of a letdown at all in a 14-game season. To not have any letdown at all, that's a real credit to Coach Osowitz and his staff to keep everybody focused, to keep them productive, and to not make them sort of fall in love with their own hype. It kept them on track. Now you can absolutely drink in your own hype. You achieved it. You can sit there and argue to everybody, we're the greatest team this area has ever seen.
I was at the Battle of the Beach week 0, and all of a sudden Washington Township scored, and all of a sudden it was 1 touchdown score in the third quarter. At that point, I never thought they would be Group 5 state champions. I mean, they were battling to win that game, and they just got better each week.
Right. And in games they were favored by, 1 million touchdowns against most of the teams in their division.
And they still covered.
They still used that time to get better. They didn't just sort of go through the motions against those teams. Yeah. They kept working on different wrinkles and important things that came into play as the stakes got bigger and the games got bigger. And now, they deserve their place among. And you know what? The thing that also is, I've known some of those coaches for a long time, and talking to them, they said this is one of the best group of players off the field that they've also had. Yeah, they're not just talented. During the game, they may get a little feisty, they may be a little physical, but off the field, they said they're all like, quality kids. And it's a team. because the other thing is I've talked to coaches over the years, right, that have had these absolutely stacked teams. And at the end of the year, they say, I hated coaching that team more than any team the whole year I've ever had in my career. Like it was a headache every week dealing with it. But talking to North, they say this was a great experience on and off the field, which is really special because you don't always get that. A lot of times you can have the great talent, but you wish you had, different character players, even if it meant losing a few more games because the headaches that can come with these really stacked teams.
The one thing Dave, Coach Oz, I think that he specifies to his guys is stay off social media. What do they call it? The rat poison at Alabama. Don't believe all that stuff. People want to, divide you with this and that. And they kind of stayed away from the social media a little bit. That's hard for a 17, 18-year-old kid to not look at their phones or, respond to a Twitter or messages on Instagram because everybody's trying to outdo everybody. Us websites, we're trying to get all these following and this and that. But they kind of kept it very professional. And that says a lot about their program doing that, especially they were the hot topic of the state. You know what I love to see, though? I wish there was one more week, and it was Bergen Catholic versus Tom Driven North. I still think that would be a game. Maybe they wouldn't be favorite.
I think all of North Jersey just rolled their eyes. They, everybody always thinks that because I remember, not to keep harping on the same team, but no Sean Moreno, his senior year, that Middletown South team, it was between them and Don Bosco for the final number one in the state, and I believe South got it. And all the North Jersey people were groaning like, "Oh, come on! If we played them, we'd blow them out. Our schedule's different." But you're right. You always that would be. It's almost like what the Tournament of Champions was for years in all these other sports. Yeah, if you were a public school, you got to test yourself against the best non-public teams. But
the Star Ledger, the Star Ledger was engineered by North Jersey anyway, so that's why it really took a good team in South or Central Jersey to overtake one of those powers. But I think it would be a good game. You can't say it won't. I mean, these guys are not going to get blown out by Bergen Catholic. They may lose to them, or they may beat them. But it would have been a great game, I think, a public school and a non-public playing it out.
Yeah, because rarely do you even have a public school in this day and age where that's in the conversation, where it's like, well, they might actually be able to beat them or give them a game. Usually that top non-public school is so far ahead of everyone and so loaded with FBS talent that it's like it wouldn't even be a contest. But, North has multiple – I mean – Michael Ford, Jalen Matthews, Pruitt, Council. I mean, they got guys that play for anybody in New Jersey, Don Bosco and Bergen Catholic included. So yeah, it certainly would be interesting to see them test themselves against them. But but sometimes I like the fun of the argument. It keeps people engaged in the sport now. They'll be arguing the whole offseason. Oh, we could have beat them. Oh, they could have never competed with us. So it kind of keeps you talking about football even into the offseason, which is always a good thing.
It was amazing. The next day after the state championship game, Micah Ford got a scholarship offer. No crap. It's going to flow with him. He's got 3 right now. Albany just offered him. But the other guys, because I talked to Coach Oz, and he goes, it is busy as heck in the hallways now because they're visiting everybody, the seniors, the underclassmen. He's got everybody entertaining. All these college interests. It's an exciting time for him right now. It really is.
Right. And you think about a public school team where potentially your whole starting lineup, pretty much every single kid will be playing in college. That's rare.
Yep.
That's really rare. I mean, obviously all teams have stars, but your like fourth lineman isn't always going to play. But I could see everybody on that team that starts going to play from the D3 level on up.
We talk about Jalen Matthews. He's got 27 offers, Power 5 type kid, top recruit in sophomore class. You have Justin K. Josh K. Then you have Justin, the other tackle, 6'7", 290. He's a junior. Right. He's going to get looks. He's going to get looks. So they're huge. They are huge, and he's got a lot of guys that may not be on the radar or on the radar now because of their resume.
Right. And transitioning from them, they're the headliners of the Shore Conference, the final number 1 team, top public school team in the state. But we can't leave out Rumson, who has a tremendous season run. and they gave Caldwell everything they could
Everything.
handle. A team that won 27 games in a row, and I'm sure it was a really tough one to swallow for the Bulldogs, given they drove down there right at the end in the final minutes, and they were inside the 10-yard line before penalties, but like they were knocking on the doorstep, down by 4 to potentially win a Group 2 title. So it was a really frustrating and tough ending for them, but still an incredible run. And not only that, given that their quarterback, Owen O'Toole, a sophomore, went over 2,000 yards passing already, and some of the other, Rigby back as a receiver, a lot of other top guys, all coming back. I mean, Rumson's they made the state finals like 8 or 9 years in a row. You're talking they could win 2-3 more, and they might win 2-3 more sections in a row, given they already are the sectional champ going into next season, and they have a big chunk of that team coming back. And that's an incredibly deep program where there's always more talent on the way to fill in for the guys in graduation. But Jeremy Schulte did a great job. And they'll always have that Raritan game, right? I mean, you're down by 17 points going into the fourth quarter of a state sectional final on the road, and you pull it out in incredible fashion. I mean, that's still really something. That's still a great season to remember.
Credit to Rumson. Every year is a different year. Switch coaches, D coordinator, head coach switch, father, son. Credit to them. I mean, it's not easy, but they're making it look real easy. They battled their butts off, though. I really was proud of them. They were making plays. I love Coach Corneliuson, the OC, changing the pace, going no huddle quick, and it was working. But the play that really irked me, I have a couple rants, and I'll talk about the other stuff there, was the fake field goal. 2 things were wrong with it. The guy's knee was on the ground, the holder.
And just to put into context for our viewers who didn't see, Caldwell scored when the holder picked up the ball on the snap on a field goal attempt, rolled out, and threw a touchdown pass.
Yes, you're supposed to keep that knee up off the ground because he's grounded. He's on the ground. He had the ball, put it on the ground, his knee's on the ground, and booted out. And he threw a ball, real nice throw, but it was a bang-bang play. They gave him the touchdown. The instant replay that we were watching showed that his foot was on the line. And here's my issue now, Scott. We use the college and NFL stadiums for what purpose? For the kids, they say. It's the kids. They want to go there. Everybody else doesn't like going there. Everybody else doesn't like going to Rutgers or MetLife. Why? How about money? It's like going to a junior prom, spending $60, $15 parking, $15 ticket. You want to get a hamburger and a Coke, you better get another job because there's another 15 right there. And we're doing all this, but why can't we have instant replay? If you're using those facilities, make it special, have instant replay, because that would have been caught in that game.
And I think it makes it even crazier that, when you're at the stadium in Rutgers, they're showing the instant replay up on the Jumbotron. So it's like they're showing the fans, okay, this play should have probably been overturned, but they're not actually doing anything about it. It's like, here you go. They just scored, and you're screaming about, wait a second, like his knee was down or his foot was out, but we're not actually overturning the play.
But we have Huddle Sideline, which you're allowed to watch videos from the sideline. Everybody saw it, and everybody was freeze framing it. And you showed the guy's foot was on the line, which should have been no go. Rumson wins the championship. That's hard to swallow. That is hard to swallow. And that's my beef with playing at Rutgers and MetLife is if we're going to go there, then go all in and have the instant replay if it's for the kids. You know what I think it is? I don't think the officials were because they messed it up last year with the instant replay. They were not updated with it. Well, then that's them. That's them. But they should have had it. They should have had it. And that was just some of the gripes I heard parents talking about the price and all that. I don't know how they made money. 1,500 people. There wasn't a lot of people at the games. They were all watching it on TV.
Yeah, that's what I think. The other thing is, there's a free live stream of every game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that I'm sure are like, well, why should I get up off my couch when I can just put this on my phone
on Sunday?
Like, why go up?
Yeah.
Especially at this time of year where it's 30 degrees out and you're going, well, the difference between driving an hour and sitting there in 30 degrees or, putting a college game on or an NFL game on on a Sunday and sitting there and watching it on my phone while I'm watching the NFL game. I mean, that you're going to lose, I think, some people, but that way, because in other words, the thought was that when you had these group finals, it maybe wouldn't just be the fans of the school. You'd get some casual fans who just, hey, this is a great matchup. I'm a high school football fan. I'm going to go up there. I think I get where they're coming from sometimes with the big time stadiums, MetLife and Rutgers, for the players, because they like to run through the tunnel that the pros run through and the college runs through, and get to use all their amenities in the locker room and all that, and see where those teams play. I understand that. I think from an aesthetics, though, when you're looking at the crowd, it's like the stadium is barren and there's this tiny little group of people off in the, one little squib of people on one side and one on the other. Yeah. It's not loud. It doesn't feel like a state championship a lot of times. It feels like a scrimmage or something. Whereas years ago when they did it at College in New Jersey and Kane and places like that, the stands would be full and would be rocking late in the game. You'd feel like, oh, the stakes are high. This is like a big game. Whereas those stadiums, it just doesn't really happen because, think of like a Group 1 final, right? These schools have like 500 kids in the whole school. So if literally everyone came, every single student came from the whole school, from both schools, that's only like 1,000 people in like a 60,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't really come off like a great atmosphere. But maybe the players don't care and they care more about playing in a big time college or pro stadium. I don't know.
Scott, I've learned in the media, and you've been in it longer than I have, that it goes in peaks. When we do our coverage around week 3, 4, we're peaking. Everybody still has their goals, their dreams, and when teams start losing, maybe they don't want to listen to shows or go on websites to check out numbers of statistics and all that. And at the end of the year, teams are done. Some people are very upset with their season, and shut down, and I'm just doing winter, and they don't want to care about anybody else. So that's what's happening in the state. I don't think the average person in the state cares if their kid or if they're not involved. That's just me.
Right. It's pretty provincial where it's like you said, if it's not your specific school or you're an alumnus or your son or daughter goes there or, something like that, you're just kind of like, I'll check it on my phone. I'll see how they did. I'll check Twitter in like an hour or two or follow along or maybe watch a little bit of the live stream. So that's kind of the way things have gone. I mean, it's crazy. Years ago when I was at the press, I did a story on the 1975 state playoff game between Red Bank Regional and Heightstown, which is like one of the legendary games.
I heard it from Lou.
Coach, your guy, Coach Versillo, Lou Versillo, was a coordinator for Red Bank on those teams. Bob Strangia. But I remember talking to Lou and even Strangia, who's now passed on. He was a great legendary coach.
Yes.
They were telling me there was 13,000 people on the hill in Little Silver at RBR's home field watching that game. And that, money was changing hands on every touchdown. And, people, it was just like a beyond a town-wide event where, the thought of even having 13,000 people at a football game, I think the biggest I ever covered was in the early 2000s, Toms River South played Toms River North in their rivalry game, and they were both like 8-0 at the same time. And I think that had maybe 9,000, and that was a monstrous crowd for the time. But you just don't really see that level of crowd participation anymore.
No, in high school sports, you really don't see that. People kind of do their own thing. School spirits aren't as high, I believe, as an average across the board because there's other distractions in life. There is.
But again, back in 1975, you couldn't go on your phone and get immediate updates and see the highlight of the kid who ran into the touchdown 30 seconds ago. You had to go to the game if you wanted to, see it for yourself. You could always read the newspaper the next day. But yeah, I think everything's so instant. It's tough to draw. I think the one thing that would probably draw a lot of people this day and age, like to a state final, big game, would be multiple players, like a player on each team that had massive social media followings. Like this guy has 700,000 TikTok followers or, Instagram. He's one of the top recruits in the country. He's going against another guy who has 1 million Instagram followers or TikTok or whatever, and he's on the other side, and they're going head to head. I think that would draw some casual interest, because you look at high school basketball when Bronny James or those kind of players come through New Jersey, the place is packed to the gills, even though New Jersey people, that's a team from out in LA. So I think that's kind of what brings in an audience these days is you would need a transcendent level guy where it's like, hey, this guy's the number one recruit in the country at his position or maybe overall. And I just want to go see him play, but
Average
again,
player.
still need tons of these schools. And I'm still glad they did it, we basically, New Jersey joined the whole rest of the country. I mean, there was something like 48 other states that were playing to group champions until we finally, got on the train because, I remember just telling reporters from other places like, oh, we have, 23 state champions or whatever it was, 26. And they're like, what? So I'm glad. And you see things like, Delsea the whole year was considered like one of the top public school teams and was unstoppable. And if the poll had just ended in the sectional finals, Delsea might have been right there with Toms River North. Are they going to jump them? But then Old Tapan comes out and beats Delsea in the Group 3 championship game. So it got proven on the field.
Delsea didn't have their quarterback. Yeah, they didn't have their quarterback.
Still, it's still what it was great to just. It's great to just see it all get settled on the field rather than have it be just conjecture forever. You're the best school in the state for the size of your school. Period.
Yes. We're all playing different teams and who's the traditional powers. Scott, I've noticed when we play teams in South Jersey, a lot of South Jersey schools are choice schools. Choice schools. And to me, if I need a running back, come on over. You can't do that in the short conference. I think it's only Central that's a choice school, but the Delseas and all the guys down there, they were all, getting guys from Vineland, getting these guys, and it's not fair. It's not fair because
kind of become a new. That's become a new thing because Rumson has been a choice school as well.
Yeah,
in basketball, especially, they've had players, girls basketball from out of their sending district and things like that.
Point Beach had that run.
Yeah, so it can happen where and that's become the new schism among public schools. Because one public school will say, well, it's not fair that we're playing this public school, but they're allowed to get kids from outside their district.
But what's in the works?
You got some Catholic schools saying we don't want to play those other Catholic schools because they're recruiting more kids than we are, and that's not fair. And then you got public schools. So basically, everyone's complaining about everybody they're supposed to play because if you don't win, then it's got to be some sort of excuse why it didn't happen.
In Virginia,
it's like get over.
In Virginia, my buddy's a high school coach in a county, and they have one county superintendent. So they have he bodies all the schools there. You have one transfer rule, one transfer hit. You can transfer one time, and you can play for that school immediately. So imagine that. So volleyball teams are good here. The soccer teams are good here. Could you imagine that Ocean County, just Ocean County, you can transfer anywhere you want and go there and play immediately. How great that was. All of a sudden, the public schools are recruiting guys and getting guys in. That would take away from the Catholic schools. It would.
What happened with Camden in boys basketball.
Oh, God.
They started getting players from all over the place. And now I've seen stories of them being in trouble with the NJSAA.
Oh,
they're not going to be allowed in the state and things like that. So schools I know Timber Creek for years had 1 million different transfers from everywhere. But it also works the other way for some of these places where guys leave. If the season doesn't go well, those 4 guys that came in, they're going to split. They'll be on another roster by the end. I just think that's the way football is. I mean, look at college. I'm reading today, 24/7 Sports has a ranking of transfer portal guys. Who's the best? Where are they going? This and that. It's a whole other thing. You hate to say this, but it's like you look at a Toms River North, right? That team is loaded with talent. But I've talked to people. Are they all going to be back there next year? Do they have a lot of people whispered in their ear? Come to this school. Come to this non-public school. Come to this private school. You'll get better offers if you come to us. It's like if you're a football coach, you have to sort of re-recruit your team every year, even out of public school. Guys, are you going to stay here? Are you going to be here?
Lock them in the rooms. Lock them in the rooms. You can't talk to them.
How do you plan out your season if a month before multiple guys are going to say, I'm going here now?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, of course. But I would take out all their Instagram and all that, lock them in a room, say, see you in August, guys. Click, boom, right? They can't see the real world because everybody loves
I
those
mean,
type
you know
of
what it
things.
always comes down to, right? It always comes down to, are you get does the player or his parents feel he's getting the proper offers? And if they're thinking I can do better and I can get better offers, or you know what, I'm a wide receiver, I don't think this quarterback is that good, you know, and
NIL.
I could go to this other school where the quarterback's supposed to be a star, and my stats will double next year, and that'll get me on radar. That's the stuff you have to contend with.
How about this guy? How about this? NIL starts hitting high schools. Now it's going on. NILs, discounts and all that. Kids are getting $50 in their pocket, just sitting there and using their likeness and all that. What's going to happen if you get some rich business that says, "Hey, let's just have some fun. I was a good high school player back in the day. I'm going to give NILs out if they come to your school," and then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
you heard Nike's going to give out $100 for the rest of their lives every month for anybody who goes to a certain Nike school in college.
yeah. I mean, you're right. Theoretically, you could buy a team.
You could.
You could buy it.
And we've
Yeah, you
seen
could.
we've seen that happen in the short conference, and they don't have football anymore. So enough's enough. All right, but NILs are out there, or NILs are out there. It's hitting Ocean. It's hitting Ocean Monmouth County slowly because all of a sudden these guys are now sponsored by or they're getting NILs. Kids are. It's a job. NIL means your kid is getting paid, but not working. He's sitting
I
there.
still think that there's part of me though that still think that's a pretty rare occurrence. I mean, that there's an alumnus in a certain town who's that crazed about high school football that he's going to throw like $10,000 at a team to get. I could see it with some of the non-publics, but I don't know if I could see that with a public school. But again, I could totally be proven wrong. I mean, only the time will tell.
I would figure, is there any millionaires out there in Barnegat? Maybe I'll come back and then we'll do it. Could you imagine rewarding kids for getting A's or coming on time, not wearing their hat in school or something like that? But that would be incredible. But I don't know the sports world right now. You're right with the portal. My one buddy's I don't want to say who it is, but my one buddy's nephew is a big time 1A quarterback who got hurt, and he just put him. He was in the draft. He was a first or third pre. He got hurt. He's been out. He's going to transfer out. He's got an NIL deal, $300,000 waiting for him. He just declared declared that he's going to be transferring. So these guys will make more money in college now than they go into pros with NIL.
I guess to me, what it's really coming down to, the change is players are reevaluating their careers year to year.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days where I go to this school, I'm going to be here
Right.
4 years, and I'm going to work my way to everything. It's year after year. What are my best options? And I think because you even look at places like Monmouth University, they have some superstars on offense.
Yeah.
Tony Muskett, their quarterback, has offers from Virginia. Like they got guys. Like they're going to have to guys that they might have planned to have 2 or 3 years. They might only have 1 year. So I think football players in general, the second they start to get to some prominence as, even sophomores in high school, are going to start reevaluating year after year. Is this the best place to go? Is this the best? Should I go here? Because, people don't really have qualms about transferring to a bunch of places anymore and living all over the place for different years. None of that seems to be an impediment to anything. So I think that's what's really changed. I think top-notch players every year are reevaluating their situation and saying, do I want to be at this school or do I want to be at that school?
Kids are going to start committing to schools. Go, if I don't like it, I'll just go into portal next month. Like, it's nuts. Guys are leaving Notre Dame and Harvard and guys threw for 4,000 yards, 1,200 receiving yards, and they're transferring. I mean, what's the red flag? We're looking at it. Why are they leaving? What's going on? But everybody likes to be reloved, right?
Right.
If a coach in college barked at a kid, he has to make sure that he's good with him after he leaves the field. Are we good? You're not like, are you going into portal?
Well, I think in some of the elite high schools too, especially in New Jersey, the non-publics particularly, but other ones too, they're also evaluating who graduates and who moves on. Yeah, I had a 1,000-yard season, but the quarterback who was throwing me the ball, he graduated, and the kid behind him we don't think is that good. So I'm not staying. I'm going over to this other place where they got to start quarterback. So that kind of stuff I would assume comes into play as well.
Clemson's quarterback gets benched in the ACC game. The next day goes in a portal. Like, come on, this is nuts. It's nuts. But you're right. It's out of control.
Football is, but I mean, I think that mentality is going to trickle down a little, where high school players are just, like I said, they're going to evaluate their best options every season. And, you know, we heard of guys that this year they lost out in a preseason quarterback competition. They transferred to another school right after that.
Yeah.
You know, short conference guys.
Yeah.
So that to me is, I think you'll see that happening. Well, we have two kids. Both of them are promising. One gets to be named the starter while the other one's out of here. You know, so I think that's just part of that. Constant shuffling is just going to be par for the course now.
We could talk for hours about this, and that will be another time. I'll talk and all that. But there was 2 quarterback controversy guys, and they're going to be on all their all-star teams. And I'm not going to mention who they are because that wouldn't be right. But there were guys in quarterback battles who are going to highlight some of our all-division teams, all county, all shore, all region, all group, and all class. So we're going to be doing our whole all-star package next week. Hope you guys enjoy it. There'll be 30 videos going out. And our sponsor, Accucare, who's awesome, is our proud sponsor for all the all-star teams. So we're going to a lot of good names are going to be out there. And I think that's the fun part of media, is letting people know, you know, recognition. There's a lot of good football players out there.
Yeah, it's great and it's exciting, but you also might need to brace yourself for he only got second team?
Yes.
He's not even on third team?
Right.
What are you, idiot? Have you even seen this kid play?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you really want to be part of the media, that's your official trial by fire, is the backlash to your
real simple.
Select.
I just say, you have an issue, you call Scott Stump. Here's his number. But you point the finger. But
no, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. Every year, I you know, like, it was interesting today. I was just looking at candidates and stuff, because the other time is you have coaches arguing for team success.
Yeah.
Hey, we were the number 1 team. We're the number 2 team. Or we led the Shore in all total rushing yards. We should get 2 offensive linemen on first team, not 1. You know, I don't want to have to choose between this guy and that guy. And I think that's also a really difficult spot for coaches too, because a lot of times you put them on the spot. I've done it over the years, where you say, look, we really only have 1 slot for your lineman on this first team. Who's it going to be? You got to give me a name, one or the other. And they're like agonizing over it, because they know they're probably going to get a hard time from the parents of the one they didn't pick.
I make all the coaches rank their kids. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's hard, because in their mind, they might think, oh, this kid's better. And then you have the other yearly conundrum, which is always hard, of this kid has 1 million offers and he's a very talented prospect with his potential. But did he have as great of an actual season on the field as this other guy who's not going to, play for Alabama next year? He might only be like a Division II player, but he had a much better season on the field. So I think that's always a really tough balance to strike. So all I'm saying is, good luck, Rob. I think you're going to do a great job. I will say this: you put in the work. You really do study all the video you can. You talk to all the coaches you can.
I'm bored.
As many as you can. So to me, that was always the thing. If you're going to do these teams, you can feel good at night going to bed knowing I put in the work. I talked to as many people as I could. I watched as much as I could. I saw them as much in person as I could. So let the chips fall where they may after that. But it's an exciting time, because I also one of those people that likes looking back on them years later and being like, wow, look at that all-shore team. They had 6 guys who were major college players, and or this all-shore team had Quentin Nelson and Mike Gesicki and,
don't mention a name. Don't mention a name, but I've heard your name come out where you scarred a person for life because he made second team, not first.
No,
don't mention who it was.
Yes, I've gotten feedback like a decade later about how they're so mad.
In their wedding vows and all that.
Yeah. It's important to a lot of these guys, and I get it. They're passionate about the sport and they're passionate about their accomplishments. So I understand that part of it. But yeah, some guys, it really sits with them for a really long time, which is not healthy. Like, as somebody who I myself was a second team All Shore player in basketball as a senior, just missed out on the last first team All Shore spot. And it was, sorry, blah, blah. Like, the sun comes up the next day. It's not the end of the world. Like, if that's the worst thing that's going to happen in your life, you're going to have a pretty good life. So, don't get too bent out of shape about it. And plus, there's so much media now that covers the Shore Conference. If you don't get first team from one, you might get it from another. So
you might get it for us. Oh, listen, I love it. The thing that we do here is that we put more kids, and we have extending a third team, fourth team, fifth team for some of our divisions, an all freshman team, sophomore, junior, senior. There's many different puzzles that these kids get onto things, but I think it's fun. You're always going to get the ups and downs. Usually it's apparent. Anonymous, a burner Instagram person, all of a sudden with one follower is attacking you, but that's good.
And I think the other thing was making hard decisions. There's an urge. To me, I think you have to resist the urge to just go, well, everybody's on first team and we'll have 5 quarterbacks because we don't want to have to decide between some of these guys. I mean, some years it really is crazy where you might have 3 or 4 guys at a position that are just sheerly incredible, and to leave them off. And I try to have the same amount of players, whether it's, okay, maybe this year we have 3 running backs and a tight end, and then one year there's not many good tight ends, but there's a ton of great wide receivers, so we have 4 of those. But I'm not a big fan of the, everybody gets honorable mention. I like to make the hard decisions because the players want to know, was I better than that guy, or how was I viewed? Was it, when they do the hierarchy of the tour, how did I fit in all that?
You were very good at not only naming the team, but explaining why. You were very good at that. And maybe you might not be right, but here's my reasoning. Bing, bing, bing. And you were very good and thorough with that. That's why your reputation is really, really good with that. So, So that's the good and bad of all-star teams. Like you said, the sun will come out tomorrow, but there's always those dads. I could give you the top 10, people that bust chops. Like, if I didn't dot the I across the T, I was off by 3.
As much as sometimes, that it's hard to listen to people with harsh words for you, and that's part of the job. I think the other thing was, hey, they're reading, they're excited about your opinion. Your opinion means something to them, which to me, that was, in a weird way, was flattering, even as they're cursing me out. Right. It obviously mattered to them that what the teams were, that our opinion mattered to them. So, I understand. And when it's your kid, you can take it personally. I get it. You don't want to see your son crushed when he looks at some list and sees he's not where he thinks he should be on it. But that's just part of it. I mean, that's part of the whole thing. You want to recognize the best of the best, and that's going to leave some people with their feelings hurt. But, to me,
Scott, I believe this. I believe this, though. Kids know where they lie. It's all the extras that get. If you put 7 quarterbacks in a room and say, guys, I want you to line up to who's the best, the first to last, I think they kind of would be in somewhat of an order. I think they would. It's all the other things that manipulate it that gets it kind of crazy. I really believe that. And when I was coaching, if I said, guys, line up to the order of depth chart, they kind of would. So I think kids know, but sometimes they have this block in their head, and why I'm getting screwed over, I'm getting this, blah blah blah. But that's the good and bad of all-star teams. It really is. So,
and I also think it's a great measure of how the classes stack up against each other. Where you'll say, "Wow, look how many sophomores are on this all shore," or "Wow, it was all seniors this year. What a senior class it was." And that, and I think it's also it will be great that you have sophomore and freshman teams because it lets people know this is the next wave of talent that will be taking over the shore. These will be the guys in the Player of the Year discussion and all-state discussion going forward. You recognize them when they're young, and that gets their name out there. Maybe a college coach is scanning that list and says, hey, I didn't know about this guy. Let me give him a look. Maybe that gets a short kid recruited, which, hey, that's what we would love for that to happen as a byproduct.
Guy, I have OCD.
Coaches, especially at smaller schools in the old days, follow me because I'd bring up a kid or show a video, and they'd say, "Oh wow, we need to take a look at that guy."
I have OCD. I have 1,200 players from class of 2027 to the seniors of 2023, and I have a bio, a resume. I have everything. Colleges get it. They get it from me. I have fun with it. This underclass group, when you see the all-star team, is loaded. Juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. There's a lot of excitement going to happen in these next couple years. We got a lot of guys coming back, which going into the preseason is going to be exciting. And when we do our way too early top 10, there's some good teams. There's not going to be a lot of movement. There's some good teams that are loaded back. And I don't want to mention one over the other now, but there's a lot of topics we can talk about in the next couple weeks, and I'm proud. So let's just end it right now because we got a lot of stuff. I'm doing an all-star team tonight. We'll get back on in the near future next week. And once we start, every 2 days, a new team will come out. So Scott Stump, Rob Davis, Shore Football Report, signing off. Congratulations to Tom Driver North and Rumson. And also, let's not forget about Red Bank Catholic. They gave a valiant effort there, right? Talk to you guys soon.